I paid for my mom's dream vacation. She brought her new family and made me share a room with her stepkids, so I left them in Greece. I'm 29, and not too long ago, I got a big promotion at work. Along with it came a decent raise, and the very first thing that popped into my head was treating my mom, who's 52, to a special trip, just the two of us. I suggested we go to Greece. She pretty much was my entire world growing up since I didn't have a dad around. He passed away from a terminal illness when I was maybe 2 or 3, so I don't really have any memories of him at all. It was always just my mom raising me, with a bit of help here and there from my grandparents. Being a single mom, she had it rough, but not once did she ever make me feel like I was too much or a burden to her. That's something I'll always appreciate. So, when I got this promotion, it felt only right that I do something meaningful to thank her for all those years of hard work and love. I could have easily asked a couple of my friends to come along for the vacation, but I didn't. That's how important my mom is to me. But as soon as I brought up the idea, she said she'd love to come on one condition: she wanted to bring her husband and his 2 teenage kids along, too. Just for some background, she married her current husband, who's 49, about 3 years ago. They'd apparently been seeing each other for years, but none of us, me, my grandparents, no one knew anything about it. She surprised us all with the news of her engagement, and by that point, it was already a done deal. 6 months later, they were married. Now, it's not like I had anything personal against the guy. He's not a bad person or anything, but for whatever reason, we never clicked. Maybe it was because the moment he and his kids came into the picture, it felt like my mom suddenly had a whole new priority list, and I was no longer near the top. Or maybe it was because he never really made an effort to bond with me or even with my grandparents. Whatever the reason, there's just always been this invisible wall between us. When I visit, we pretty much stay out of each other's way as much as we can. He's got 2 kids from his first marriage, a daughter who's 16 and a son who's 14. I don't know much about why his ex left him. According to my mom, the woman was manipulative and selfish, the kind of person who didn't care about her husband or her children. Supposedly that's why she doesn't have custody of them anymore. My mom never really went into detail, and honestly, I never asked. That situation just wasn't my business. From what I know, my stepdad had been married for 6 years, then divorced for nearly 2 before he met my mom and things got serious. The 4 of them seemed like they had their lives together, so I didn't press her about it when she said she wanted them to come along. Sure, it meant more planning, more money, 4 plane tickets instead of 2, and 2 hotel rooms instead of 1, and I knew I wouldn't get that one-on-one time with her like I'd imagined. But I let it go because the point of the trip was to make her happy and show appreciation. And thankfully, with the raise, I had some room to splurge. So after a couple of weeks mapping things out, we boarded our flight and finally touched down in Athens yesterday afternoon. We were all jet-lagged, so we tried to catch a nap. To my surprise, the kids ended up napping in my room, while my mom and her husband took the room next door. That caught me off guard. I'd figured she'd want a room with her own family, but I didn't say anything. I assumed it was just temporary and the kids would switch once they woke up. But even after the naps, they stayed put. Still, I didn't want to make a fuss, so we all went out to explore the area a bit that evening. When we got back to the hotel, the kids once again went straight into my room. That's when I figured it was time to bring it up. I pulled my mom and stepdad aside in the lobby and politely told them I thought the kids should start staying in their own room. I figured they'd agree. It seemed like common sense. But instead, my stepdad just laughed in my face. Literally laughed. He said something like, "Well, if you wanted to give your mom a vacation so badly, you should have known she'd need a break from the kids, to consider it part of the package." He said it like it was the funniest thing in the world. I stood there confused, and then he went on to explain that since I'd organized this whole trip for my mom to relax, the least I could do was watch the kids so she could actually enjoy it. Then they both smiled, thanked me like I was some kind of free babysitter, and walked away, leaving me standing there, completely stunned. I mean, I was already doing what I thought was the most anyone could ask, planning and paying for an entire vacation just to thank my mom for everything she did. Most people my age wouldn't even think of doing something like that for their parents, and here I was getting treated like a live-in nanny. If she really needed a break, she could have left the kids at home and come with me alone, just like I'd intended. Later that night, I went up to their room again and tried to talk things through a second time. But this time, my stepdad wasn't playing nice. He flat out told me that I had to share my room with the kids because they'd earned this break. And before I could even respond, he slammed the door in my face. What hurt the most? My mom just stood there and said nothing. Not a word to defend me, not even when he was blatantly being rude and disrespectful. It was just crazy to me. He kept talking about how his kids deserved this trip, but the truth is, none of this would have even happened without me. I was the one who earned the promotion. I was the one who paid for the trip. And instead of being even a little bit grateful, they acted like I owed them something more. I was absolutely boiling by the time I got back to my room and saw the kids still sprawled out on the bed next to mine. I figured I'd try a softer approach, so I asked them if they'd be okay moving to the other room. I was really hoping they'd agree. But nope, they said their parents told them to stay wherever I was, so they just assumed they'd be bunking with me the whole trip. I didn't snap at them, though, because I knew none of this was really their fault. It wasn't on them that their dad was acting like a complete jerk. So I let it go for the moment and sat there, trying to figure out what I was going to do next. A couple of hours went by, and by around 10 p.m., I realized the kids had already dozed off. That's when it hit me, my only way out was to just leave. No warning, no drama, no heads up. Just walk away. They'd been selfish and downright disrespectful, and I wasn't about to let my stepdad push me around on a vacation that I was funding. I didn't hesitate. I gathered up my bags and slipped out. Luckily, I hadn't unpacked anything, so it didn't take long. And the hotel staff didn't give me any trouble either. I told them I was checking out and that any charges could be billed to my mom and her husband from here on out. It was just after midnight by the time I left, but I got lucky, found an Uber pretty fast and, after a bit of searching, checked into another hotel not too far away. Honestly, it was an upgrade. And now that I was finally free of my mom and her family, I could enjoy the trip the way I'd originally planned, treating myself for once. That night, I actually slept well. The next morning, first thing I did was book a full body massage at the hotel spa. I needed that. I'd worked myself into the ground to earn this promotion, and this vacation was supposed to be about recharging, not babysitting teenagers. Before I left, I'd already blocked both my mom and my stepdad on everything, so I wasn't expecting to hear from them anytime soon, and I made sure they had no way of knowing where I was staying. I was finally starting to relax and enjoy myself. That was, until a couple hours ago at lunch. That's when I heard from my mom. She'd made a fake Instagram account just to reach out and messaged me, basically saying I was being heartless. She claimed I was being cruel, especially to her, by leaving them like that. She went on and on about how if I was really upset over how things had gone down, I should have waited until morning to talk it out like a family. That way, we could have reached some kind of understanding that worked for everyone. But instead, she said, I abandoned them in a foreign country, knowing full well that their credit cards wouldn't work internationally and that they didn't have any local currency on them. According to her, the hotel staff was now pressuring them to pay up, and since I'd handed the rooms over to her and her husband before I left, they were responsible. And if they didn't come up with the money soon, they'd be kicked out. Basically, she blamed me for ditching them in a mess they couldn't fix. She told me she was deeply disappointed in me and said she never expected me to act so immaturely. Then she demanded that I come back immediately to clean up the mess and help them out. And that's when I just snapped. The entitlement in that message had me seeing red. So I responded. I told her flat out that she was a grown woman and could figure it out herself, and if she needed help, she should ask her husband, the same one she always puts above everyone else these days. Well, that didn't sit well with her. She came back with, I wish I'd never agreed to go on this trip in the first place, and accused me of being jealous of her new life and family, that the only reason I was acting like this was because I wanted to ruin things for them. And honestly, that stung. Because I'm not jealous, I'm hurt. I'm disappointed that my own mother chose to side with people who don't know me and clearly don't respect me, instead of standing up for her own daughter. But you know what? I'm an adult now, and if she wants to prioritize them over me, fine. What I'm not okay with is being treated like I don't matter, especially when I'm the one footing the bill for the whole trip. People have asked if I feel guilty for leaving them stranded like that, and no, I don't. Not one bit. My stepdad tried to force me to room with his kids on a vacation I paid for. That crossed a line. Update. Hey everyone, just wanted to give a little follow-up. I didn't apologize to my mom. I haven't contacted her again, and honestly, after reading through some of the comments and giving it more thought, I've realized I don't actually owe her as much as I used to think I did. The fact that I even offered to take her on this trip should have been more than enough for her to feel appreciated. But she had to push it even further. Not only did she insist on bringing her whole new family along, but she also expected me to give up my personal space, my peace, and my privacy for kids that aren't even mine. And I still don't understand why she thinks I was supposed to sit down and have some kind of family meeting to work things out. They're not my family. Her husband's not my dad. His kids aren't my siblings. So I don't owe any of them that kind of effort or conversation. The only reason I left them behind is because they were flat out disrespectful to me, even though I was the one who went out of my way to plan this vacation for all of them. The least they could have done was show a little appreciation. Instead, they acted like I owed them everything. Looking back, my biggest mistake was letting my mom talk me into bringing her new family along in the first place. They're not my responsibility, and I don't have to keep sacrificing my peace just to make her feel comfortable in her new life. I thought I was doing the right thing by trying to repay her, but in the process, I let myself get steamrolled. Never again. My mom had been a good mother to me, no question about that, but that didn't give her a free pass to act all entitled now. That's just how I see it. It's been a full day since our last interaction, and even though she's still sending me texts here and there, I haven't replied. I haven't even opened most of them. I didn't bother blocking her either, because I figured she'd just find another way to message me anyway. Instead, I muted her notifications so I wouldn't have to deal with the constant buzzing. I'm focusing on enjoying this trip on my own now. Update 2. Well, never say things can't get weirder. My mom actually showed up with her whole crew in the lobby of the hotel I'd moved to. She threw a complete tantrum when the front desk staff wouldn't let her up to my room or even share my room number. Which, by the way, is just basic hotel policy. I'm not sure why she was so shocked by that. When I came downstairs to figure out what was going on, she was fuming. She pulled me aside and immediately started yelling, demanding to know why I'd abandoned them. Turns out they'd managed to settle up at the old hotel by working something out with their bank, but now they wanted a full explanation from me. To be honest, I didn't think I owed them anything, but I still told her exactly why I walked out. And while I talked, I could see her husband's expression turn darker and more sour by the second. He looked like he was about to explode with frustration, but I didn't care. It was his behavior that pushed me to leave in the first place. If he'd treated me with basic decency, none of this would have happened. His angry stares didn't scare me. I wasn't going to feel guilty for standing up for myself. Then my mom started in with the lectures, talking about family values, and how what I did was humiliating and cowardly. According to her, I should have just talked it out like an adult instead of leaving. That really set me off. I told her flat out that we weren't a family. Not really. Not anymore. She kept secrets from us, hid this whole other life for years and only bothered to clue us in when she was already about to marry the guy. And neither she nor her husband had ever treated me like I belonged in their little family unit. So no, I didn't owe them family loyalty. They were lucky I even offered to take her on this trip. If she was too blind or too entitled to appreciate that, then maybe she didn't deserve it in the first place. I told her right then and there that I didn't want to see her again. I asked her to leave me alone for the rest of the trip. She tried to guilt me into booking their flights home, but I refused. I'd already done enough. They were both grown adults with their own resources. If they couldn't be grateful, they sure as hell weren't going to get any more out of me. We went back and forth for a bit longer before my stepdad finally stepped in and dragged them all out of the hotel. He gave me the dirtiest looks the entire time, like I was the villain in all this. But I didn't flinch. I wasn't going to let their drama ruin what little peace I had left. Now it's been a couple of hours, and I'm heading out to grab dinner with a friend of mine who lives here in Greece. She reached out when she saw my posts and invited me out. I'm hoping this whole mess is finally over, and that my mom and her new family just go home and leave me be. I'm not interested in dragging this out any further. Update 3. So, I was wrong. I thought it was finally behind me after that last blowout with my mom in the hotel lobby. I really did. But 2 days later, right when I was getting ready to head out and explore the city again, I got a call from the front desk. My mom had come back, this time alone. I figured I'd talk to her just to put an end to this once and for all. When I got to the lobby, she looked more upset than angry, which was a first. She started off by saying she was sorry for yelling, for acting entitled. She said she hadn't even realized how she was behaving at the time. She went on to explain that things had been really tense between her and her husband lately. Money, stress, parenting, everything had just piled up. They were already going through a rough patch before I invited her on this trip, and she saw it as a chance to bond, to bring us all together as one family. She said she genuinely loved all of us and hoped we could be part of each other's lives. But now, she wasn't so sure. After what happened, and especially after the fight she had with her husband once I left, she realized maybe it wasn't going to work out that way. Apparently, they had a huge blowout. He told her she'd raised me poorly and even had the nerve to say his ex-wife had been a better mother than she was. That floored me. His ex used to leave the kids home alone for hours at a time, locked in rooms while she went out partying. That's what ended their marriage. And yet, because I stood up for myself, he thought it was okay to compare my mom to that? I don't know anyone who'd be okay hearing that. But my mom said she still loved him, and she's sticking with him. That stung. She told me they were flying home the next day and wanted to apologize before they left. She admitted she'd been on edge and stressed, and that my leaving just escalated everything. Then she asked that we not talk for a while, but I give her space. I wasn't planning to chat with her during the rest of my vacation anyway, but hearing her say it out loud, yeah, that hit hard. Knowing I wouldn't be calling her like I used to, sharing random things about my day, that hurt. It really did. We hugged, but it was awkward. Cold. And if I'm being honest, I kind of wish she hadn't come at all. Her visit didn't bring closure, it just made everything feel worse. She was my best friend growing up. She was everything to me. And now, losing her to this new family feels like I'm losing one of the last pieces of my childhood too. But it is what it is. She chose her husband and her new family over me. There's nothing more I can do. I'll try to enjoy the rest of this vacation, because honestly, I paid a fortune for this hotel and I deserve to get what I came for. Update 4: I got home 3 days ago, and I'm going back to work tomorrow. The trip turned out to be pretty great in the end. I did my best to put the whole thing with my mom out of my mind. For a while, it worked. I didn't think about her too much, especially once I got back into my routine. That is, until last night, when my grandparents called. They told me my mom had decided to leave her husband. Apparently, things between them had been falling apart anyway, and after everything that happened in Greece, they just couldn't make it work anymore. So now, the same family she prioritized over me? Gone. She chose them over her own daughter, and now she doesn't even have that anymore. I haven't heard from her since the day she left the hotel. And I haven't reached out either. It felt pointless. I didn't want to force myself into a space where I clearly wasn't wanted. She made it clear she didn't want contact, and I respected that. Even now, after finding out about the divorce, she hasn't told me herself. That says a lot. I think this is the end of the road for me and my mom, at least for now. And even if we do somehow talk again in the future, things will never go back to how they used to be. But I've made peace with that. I was a good daughter. I did everything I could, right up until I just couldn't anymore. And now, whatever happens next, I'm okay with it. I really do wish her the best. I'm too old to carry grudges, especially not against my own mother. It's time to move forward.